Welcome to Common Sense, where we're exploring businesses in your community. I'm your host, Julie Chan. Torrance is becoming known for their craft breweries, and Absolution Brewing Company just opened. Let's go inside, check it out, meet the partners, and find out what sets them apart. What happens when three guys from different walks of life get together for the love of beer? They open a brewery and tasting room. Let's meet Nigel Heath, former corporate CEO, now calls himself Chief Tasting Officer.
Absolution Brewing Company is a craft brewer based here in Torrance. We established the business plan about a year ago and came to Torrance in September and opened our doors on March the 1st of 2014. So we are a nano brewery by definition, which is a characterization by the amount of beer that we actually produce currently. We're unique in that we produce a crossover American and traditional British ale style of beer.
Nigel Heath has enjoyed a career as CEO and investor to many companies. This new venture brought him out of retirement. He reminisces on coming to America.
My wife, daughter, and I came from England 20 years ago. So been living in the States as citizens for 20 years. Obviously grew up drinking fine English ales, where typically the beer is from natural carbonation and is served at room temperature. So quite a different experience. And when we arrived 20 years ago, I really didn't think I would last, because all that was on offer was yellow, frozen, fizzy beer. I'm really happy to say, that has changed dramatically, and the biggest growth area for craft beer is right here. It's happening right here in Torrance.
With 5 craft breweries in Torrance, Heath and his partners see the city as a destination for the industry.
Putting the business plan together was obviously key, and then putting the financing together between the three of us. We self-funded the business, so we all definitely have fat in the game. And then probably the hardest part, and took surprisingly the longest, was finding the right premises. At the time we started looking, the economy was still in recovery mode, and we thought finding the right premise would be pretty easy, particularly for warehouse space. And it proved not to be the case. The recovery was already starting to accelerate quicker than we thought initially, and there was some competition for space. But we're very happy that we found this space here at 2878 Columbia Street, Torrance. Gorgeous ceilings, 30-foot high, one of the largest spaces around that we looked at, and perfect for brewery use.
Heath and his fellow partners chose this 7,000 square foot location with 30-foot high ceilings for growth in the future. With a sound marketing plan, they are committed to their goals.
Building the brand, loyalty, repeat customers. I watch every day in the tap room, and all three of us regularly visit all of our accounts. So Jane and I were out visiting accounts last night. Steve was, Wes was after we closed, so no downtime. After the tap room closed yesterday, we were visiting accounts, checking on the product, how's the beer pouring. We will go in as customers and buy our own product to make sure it's perfect. If it's not perfect, we will pull it back from an account, because we want that customer experience to be right, 100% perfect every time the customer enjoys one of our beers.
Absolution opened with 4 tanks, each holding 10 barrels of beer to ferment. Since opening in March 2014, the owners are already seeing the potential for growth.
Putting money back in now to new equipment. We've ordered some larger fermenters, so more fermenters means more product, which means we can distribute to a wider audience and a geographically further audience as well.
After the break, we'll meet Heath's other half to find out how she contributes.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
The great outside.
We both love the outdoors.
So shiny.
That's not a flower. We both love geology.
Oh, look. An igneous one.
That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Used to call me the buttered biscuit. Back then I was a sex expert. I know about birth control too.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
Have you had sex in this car yet?
Welcome back to Common Sense. I'm here now with Jane Heath, who volunteers her artistic talents to her husband's business. Jane, talk about your involvement with this menu and what you did to make it look beautiful.
Well, the guys have a lot of beers, and we have this cold box here, so I suggested to them, why not paint it and use it like a chalkboard? So that's what we've done, but we've modified it in a way that's easy for them to rotate and change the beers they have on display. Because they like to display the beers in the order they would best be tasted. So you get the best and the cleanest flavors from the beers as you taste them. You're not overwhelmed by what you've just tasted. So at this point, we have what we have up here is what we have on offer. And when one runs out, which we like, and or if another one comes on, we can just take the boards off. They're magnetic on the back.
Oh, that's great.
And we just flip them out, and it's very easy for them to change them around without them having to grab a chalk pen and then try to be creative with their skills.
Right.
Which they try hard, but.
Well, and I mean, this font is wonderful. How did you learn how to do font like this?
Well, it's largely practice. The guys said they'd like it in the font rather than just regular handwriting, so I said, okay, let's see what we can do. And practice a little bit just with a regular Sharpie on paper first to get a flow for how it works. And now I think I could probably do it in my sleep. But it's fun, and every now and again you make a mistake, but that's what life's about.
Not only does Jane share her artistic quality through the menu board, but she is integral to various decisions.
As we come up with a new beer, I also help them come up with the names. I tend to do a little bit of research. They sometimes say I get a little bit heavy with the research, but I like to have a tie and tie it with our theme, but also the beer. For example, the Hefeweizen, we call that Purgatory, which sort of fits in with our play on the secular and the spiritual in two-way, but also it ties into that. It's a German-style beer. And all the issue over the Reformation and the purgatory at that time in Germany. So we like to there's a logic behind it, but it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it sort of adds a little bit of interest.
Yes, definitely. And there's another one your husband mentioned to me that you thought of named Holy Cow. Talk about what that beer is and how you came up with the name.
Well, we already have a stout, which we call Sinner. And we were playing around with names, and this is a milk stout we're bringing out, which doesn't actually have poured milk in it, it has lactose in it, but playing around with the idea, and we like the idea of how could we get milk? You know, milk isn't a word that's used much in the theological world.
Right.
And I don't know, it just came into mind that why not? You know, I think I started off thinking of sacred cow, and then they thought that was a little too sort of academic.
Right.
So we changed it to holy cow, which is a phrase we hear quite often.
While Jane is more of a silent partner, her touches are seen throughout the company.
We had ordered some manufactured handles and they weren't going to be ready in time for opening. So we had the barrels we'd used to create the bar, and so we've taken the individual staves, selected those that are the right width, and then trimmed them and drilled them to take the fitting here. And then it's like, oh, how do I get the name on them? Once you've done one project for these guys, they have total faith that you can solve their next problem.
Right.
So a little bit more practice and a little bit of carbon paper to give me a rough outline, and then hope your hand's steady, so no drinking the beer before you make the taps.
And that's great, and they're so uniform looking. I mean, that's amazing that you have made them all to look so identical.
Don't look too closely, but I'm glad you feel they look good, that's all right.
They look wonderful. And then you also use these tap handles for the restaurants that you have beer in,
yes,
right?
They're out in various bars and restaurants as we speak. Yes.
So your logo is definitely out there thanks to you.
It's sort of nice to go out there and see your work out there. Yes, I've never done anything like this, so it's quite an experience.
Wow, well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Now tell me about this sign that you made. I mean, this is huge and must have taken an awful lot of time.
It took a lot of hours, yeah. 4 days from 8 in the morning till 11 at night, up and down with a scissor lift. As I said, this is such a big space.
Right.
We need to make it feel comfortable for our customers.
Thank you so much, Jane.
You're welcome.
Now that we've met the woman who makes the actual tap handles, let's go meet Wes McCann, who makes the beer. Wes McCann, also a partner, has been home brewing since 1994 and brewing professionally since 2008. After the break, we'll introduce you to him and give you a behind-the-scenes look at how Absolution brews their beers.
There are so many things that I love about Bo. My sister and I nicknamed him Mushy Mush because he literally just melts in your arms when you pick him up. Him and I are just a perfect match. We just love cuddling together. He still plays like a puppy. He has these little ways that he uses his paws that is so adorable, and his little tongue sticks out. He's to die for. He kills me. I remember the first time he entered my house, we just kind of sat there staring at each other for a second. And I was like, am I gonna be fun enough for you? I had never looked into adopting a dog before, so I didn't know what it would be like. But it was really pleasant, and it went really smooth. And they actually came out to my house just to look around and see and make sure that it was a healthy environment for the dog. And then, you know, that night they called me and they were like, okay, well, Bo's yours. They were just so kind and so great to work with. I always tell friends who are interested in getting pets that they should adopt. There's always a difference between an adopted pet and one that's not. There's a level of appreciation that your dog has when you adopt them. It's almost as if, and I truly believe that Bo knew that I saved him in some way, because there's a million animals that just need somebody to love them so much, and it just kills me that there's other Bos out there. Adopting Bo totally changed my life. My sister and I even have this joke, like, who rescued who? Truly, when he came into my life, he changed everything. Dogs have this way of when you're sad, they just know, and he just knows that perfect little nook to just curl up in when I have anxiety or I'm sad or anything. There's nothing more rewarding than building that relationship and seeing them day by day warm up to you. It's just such a beautiful connection. I just think that adoption is the only way to go.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org for more information.
Well, here I am with Wes McCann. And Wes, talk about how you make this beer.
Well, I'm using processes that have been perfected for 10,000 years. The dawn of civilization was actually a result of people wanting beer. The grains, as we know, water was never all that good, so they had to do something to get something to drink. So they stopped and grew grain so they could make beer. You know, here in Absolution, we do something a little bit more modern than just heating some rocks and throwing them in some wort. But we have our mash tun, grind our grain over there. We have a mash tun where we let the grain soak for a certain period of time at anywhere from 145 to 155 degrees, depending on the type of beer we're making. Our brew kettle, we transfer it over our brew kettle, brew the wort, and from there whirlpool it, cool it down through the heat exchanger, put it in the fermenter, and then we let nature take over. We pitch our yeast, and we end up with, you know, a good glass of beer.
McCann puts his heart into making the beer and has one assistant brewer who hopes to become a professional brewer as well. Besides making the beer, McCann finds joy in talking to people who drink his juice, so he calls it.
I like to talk to the people because I want to hear constructive feedback. I want to hear
what they like.
If they like it, they don't like it, you know, why.
Right.
And part of the process here has been a very, very educational process because we make beers that nobody else is making. We're doing very English, old world style beers. So English beers, English, Belgian, German ales. Like my porter, the recipe for my porter actually is very similar to a recipe that's over 100 years old. So you have to go way back in time to do some of the recipe development we've done. The beers that I really love that it was hard for me to find happen to be old German ales. People think of Germany, they think more of lagers, but there's a lot of good German ales. Belgian ales, which developed for over 1,000 years without the Reinheitsgebot that Germany had to adhere to. So they have, you can put anything in a Belgian beer and it works, you know, or it might not work, but it can still be a beer.
Right.
And then the beers of England and Scotland they just called to me. So I love making them, I love drinking them, I love explaining to people why we do something a little bit different than everybody else. And I think because of that, we found our little niche here in South Bay that makes us a unique brewery.
McCann is not only a mastermind at making beer, but adds organic fruit to some of his selections on tap.
The strawberries come in, we wash them, we sanitize them, we clean them up, and then I was sitting right there on a bucket for 9.5 hours one night, cutting up 200 pounds of organic strawberries to pitch into the fermenter.
Breweries like Absolution use a Type 23 license from the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. This license takes about 3 to 5 months to obtain and only allows them to sell the beer they brew. Thank you so much for your time today, teaching me all about how to make beer and all of your concoctions.
You're welcome.
Well, now that we've met the man who makes the beer, we're going to go to Steve Farguson, the man who puts the beer on the street.
It was like my mother said to me, she goes, Steve, if you build it, they will come because they know your passion for the industry. I feel like I'm a steward to the industry. So I promote Absolution, but I promote all my brethren, everybody else in LA as well. It's not about us, so to speak, it's about everyone.
Steve Farguson has been a consultant for the past 10 years within the craft beer industry and is coming home to his roots in the South Bay.
Los Angeles is a melting pot, and we see it here in the brewery. I mean, we see everyone here. It's fabulous. We don't have that in San Diego, which is really exciting. We see men and women 50-50. We see the old demographic of 29 years old to 43 years old drinking craft beer is gone in LA. It's 21 to 90 years old here. I mean, so the audience is huge. So with that, that's why we want to make IPAs that appeal to both sexes and all ages. It's really important. And with that, we have to educate. So we get to this Brewers Guild or this brewery event in 20th Century Fox, and I'm seeing Dos Equis, I'm seeing Heineken, I'm seeing Bud, I'm seeing a smidgen of small brewers. I'm like, holy crap. I mean, Angelinos are 20 years behind San Diego. And I knew at that point that we were going to have to educate the public. So it's my mission when somebody comes into my tasting room is I'm going to explain the beers, why we do, you know, the low carbon carbon or the CO2 bubble versus what every other brewery is doing. What the flavors are. What don't you like about beer? I want to know what your perception of beer is, and I'm going to educate it because a smart beer drinker is the one I want to see in my tasting room.
Farguson, also part owner, chose the name Absolution while reading scripture. He is a steward of many sorts.
Many people out there simply believe if they don't like beer, they don't want to drink it because they think one size fits all, and that truly isn't the case anymore. We have so many different beers for so many different palates. So it's a very exciting time for the consumer, a really exciting time. We're finding people want to hang out, they want to take their time having a set of tasters, and we want to complement it with some good food. Our grand opening is coming on Friday. We have Travis Porter, who's an accomplished chef with one of the best trucks I've ever seen. The food is over the top, and we're actually doing a food pairing with each beer.
Farguson calls himself the Chief Consumption Officer, but besides drinking beer, he handles the marketing and distribution. After the break, we'll find out what these partners really do think of one another.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
Michael Adams?
Here.
Michael Adams?
Here.
Michael Adams.
Michael Adams.
Students who miss 18 days of school in any grade risk falling behind and not graduating. Absences add up. Keep track at boostattendance.org today.
To Maddie, congrats on paying off all those student loans.
Finally, right?
How'd you manage that anyway?
I started tracking my spending, changed a couple of habits.
Wow, I'm kind of living paycheck to paycheck right now. I don't even know how I'm doing it.
Well, have you tried saving a little?
I want to, but where's that money gonna come from? Bill collectors, they're the worst. Am I right?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
Not home.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Get out to the forest.
Let the kids connect to their roots. It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah!
Woo-hoo!
Hey, guys, wait up! And discover the wonders of nature with your family.
These trees are the key to our way of life.
Fresh air.
What a glorious morning!
Clean water.
Woohoo! This is great!
An endless forest adventure.
Let's rock this jungle!
Yo, this is untapped territory.
How amazing!
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Individually, the three men were enjoying craft beer, but it was the homemade British ales that ignited into Absolution Brewing Company.
When I first met Nigel, he lives up in Marin County, and I know he had a beautiful wine cellar and was really into wine. What I didn't know was his appreciation for beer. I mean, really good beers. And so what do you bring somebody as a housewarming gift when you're going for the first time? I said, I'm not going to bring wine. I'm going to pick some really great beers that I like. And I brought it to his house, and literally, he fell out of his chair. And we drank all of them that night. It was great, and we just had an instant friendship. It was fabulous because we had so much in common. That synergy between Nigel and I was so positive. And the big thing was, if you're picking a partner, you're truly not picking a partner because he or she has the same strengths as you. He has fabulous strengths, none of which are mine. So we truly complement each other, as does Wes. So the three of us, and we put our heads together. We might not agree on it all the time, but we nip it in the butt and we make it happen and move forward. It's truly been a blessing.
Steve approached me, and when he introduced me to his partner, I'm like, oh, this is a match made in heaven, because Nigel's, English. Right. So I knew that he was going to love the beers I make, the styles I make, the way I make them, because it would remind him of the beers he grew up on.
The real core of my attraction when I first met Wes was, he's a genius brewer. And there are lots of genius brewers, but Wes is really dedicated to his craft as it was, a century ago. So everything here is handmade. There's no big computer that says the beer is ready. Wes, if he doesn't like the look of it, the smell of it, anything, he's the genius behind the beer.
Absolution Brewing Company is located at 2878 Columbia Street. They are closed Mondays and Tuesdays, open 3 to 9 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, and noon to 6 p.m. on Sundays. For more information, go to absolutionbrewingcompany.com. With 20 concoctions to date and many more in the pipeline, the partners here at Absolution Brewing Company are optimistic for the future. For Common Sense, I'm Julie Chan. Cheers!
Cheers!
If you know of another local business you'd like to see featured on our show, please send an email to commonsense@torranceca.gov.